I apologize once again if you can hear the leaf blowers going on in the background. It's the afternoon here in Vancouver. Leaves are on the ground, or actually, I don't even know if that's correct. Why are there leaves on the ground? It was snowing a few weeks ago. But either way, there are some maintenance people outside the apartment doing some leaf blower stuff, so I apologize if you hear that on the mic. We're talking today about the Montreal Canadiens and yet another name that has been thrown out there into the trade waters. So, when it comes to the Canadiens and their overall plan, we know that this team kind of sucks right now, and we know that they have so many expiring deals that can be seen as trade rental acquisitions for other teams, and they even have longer-term deals as well that are sort of seen in the same way. Kent Hughes and co. have themselves a job here that says that they need to go out there and make this team better in the future, and whether that means trading away a short-term guy like Ben Sherratt or a longer-term guy like a Gallagher or a Petrie, it remains to be seen. And for the Canadiens, we're all just kind of, crossing our fingers that Kent Hughes can go out there and actually get good returns for whatever trades it is that he decides to make. For Marc Bergevin, it was kind of funny because Bergevin was not hesitant to make trades at all. This guy would go out there and trade like every few weeks, it felt like, when he was the GM of the Montreal Canadiens. And Kent Hughes, obviously, coming into a brand new job. He was just an agent. He's in here in his first NHL organization as an executive. He's not going to be as aggressive, I guess, as Bergevin was when Bergevin was going out there making trades left, right, and center. So we've got to wait a little bit. That's okay. We still have the trade discussions going on. We've spoken about Petrie. We've spoken about Sherratt and Gallagher and teams that might be interested, yada, yada, yada. But when it comes to this player, this is one of the secondary, tertiary pieces on the team. One of the guys that isn't really all too important in the eyes of many Canadiens fans, and a guy that apparently has also had his name thrown around in the trade talks as well. Let's go over onto this article, The Canadiens' Path Forward. New GM Kent Hughes outlines how the next 8 months could go for the Habs. This was published on February 2nd by Arpon Basu and Marc-Antoine Gaudin. And as always, if you have The Athletic, you can go ahead, click the link in the description, read this article yourself. Because, though, this is an Athletic piece, we're not going to be screenshotting this. We're going instead over onto NHLTradeRumors.me, where a summary of this Athletic article is provided. So, without further ado, let's head over onto this free website and take a look how the Montreal Canadiens are going to trade this defenseman. According to Arpon Basu and Marc-Antoine Gaudin of The Athletic, the Montreal Canadiens are very likely going to trade Chris Wideman by the deadline. Wideman signed a one-year $750,000 contract with the Canadiens during the offseason and has since been a mainstay on their blue line. In 31 games on the year, he has 2 goals, 8 assists, and a -15 rating. If he remains healthy and keeps up this pace of production, he could set a career high in points by the season's end. The rest of the article goes over what Wideman could be and what he could be seen as for a playoff contending team, but just going over what the main idea is right here. Chris Wideman is a Montreal Canadiens defenseman, 32 years old, 5'10", 181, a right-handed guy signed till the end of the season. $750,000 is the cap hit. Now, Wideman, as the article did note, he could go out there and set himself a career high in total points in NHL production because his best NHL season was 17 points in 76 Ottawa Senators games in 2016-17. Right now, you take a look at the point production pace he is on, 10 divided by 31 multiplied out by 82. Hey, he's on pace for 26 points, which actually isn't terrible when you consider the fact that he is a bottom pairing option, he is a secondary, sometimes primary, it really depends on the day, power play option, as well as the fact that he's pretty much fresh out of the KHL back on the NHL ice. Wideman was always one of those really interesting projects that was in the Ottawa Senators system. He was a really good NCAA defenseman that actually built himself a solid profile despite being a 4th-round guy. He eventually made the Ottawa Senators after years of dominating the AHL with the Binghamton Senators, but he was never really fantastic, and 2018-19 was that year where he went out there and he played for 5 separate hockey teams: the Ottawa Senators, the Edmonton Oilers, the Florida Panthers, the Springfield Thunderbirds, and the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins too. He was all over the place, and in 2019-20, after another year with the San Diego Gulls, he was like, okay, screw that, I'm going off to Russia. And eventually, playing for Torpedo, he had himself 41 points, 59 games played. He really showcased a tremendous amount of value in the KHL, and a lot of people were starting to say, okay, this guy's kind of found his edge. He's found himself a solidified offensive body of work that works at a high level of play, and as a result, we'll see if he gets signed to another NHL contract and eventually makes his return to the National Hockey League soon. The Montreal Canadiens gave him that chance, and so far, I mean, he is on pace for a career high, but still, 10 points, 31 games, second power play guy. He's not really the most important player out there, but he kind of does what he is supposed to do. He's supposed to go out there and he's supposed to be a power play option that does some effective things in the offensive zone right. It's just, unfortunately for Montreal, players like Wideman are not really guys that are going to go out there and move the needle to the point that they're starting to win games because of him. He's just another guy on this blue line, and as a result, because he does expire at the end of this season, there is the possibility that any team going out there and maybe looking for some extra depth on their power play units, or maybe some other guys in the bottom of their lineup that can maybe get points, sees a guy like Wideman and says, okay, that might be our guy right here. Now, this article in NHLTradeRumors.me says exactly that. Playoff teams looking for a bit more production on the back end could consider a player like Wideman. He could be an interesting option on the bottom pair, but also he could serve best as the 7th defenseman on a contender. When seeing how he's got such an affordable salary, it certainly makes him a more alluring option. And yeah, that's a pretty good point right there. If there's any team that's going out there looking for a player to just send away for a 4th round pick or whatever, maybe Chris Wideman is your guy. At this point in Kent Hughes' career, I think it's kind of fair to say that everybody whose name is not Suzuki or Caulfield or I guess Alexander Romanov should be a potential trade candidate, because if Kent Hughes wants to go out there and build this team better for the future, I'm sorry, but you're not going to go out there and expect a team with all these long-term contracts like the Prices and the Petries and the Gallaghers to really contend in a significant margin within the period of those contracts. It's going to take a while and a little bit of grounding and pounding, molding this roster away to get to the point where you can actually start winning games again and even making the playoffs in the first place, because might I remind you, even though the Canadiens made the finals last year, they were not the best team in that North Division heading into the postseason. The year before that, in the 2020 bubble, they made the playoffs strictly by the fact that there was a play-in round and they defeated Pittsburgh and Crosby. They were the worst team in the NHL to actually make the playoffs by a long shot, and it's been the year-in, year-out story for a while now that the Canadiens are just not good enough to find themselves in a playoff race and hold down a spot to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, this is a bona fide contender team. Their reputation is akin to the likes of Colorado or Florida or Tampa Bay. They're seen as one of these top contending teams. They were never really seen like that. Even in the finals, everybody doubted them every step of the way, and sure, it made for a great Cinderella run, made for a great story, but what happened? Carey Price is gone, Shea Weber is gone, Jeff Petry's still here, but he's definitely not as effective as he was before. You have some guys who are going out there and producing, but you lost out at Tatar, Danault, Gallagher. That line was so good defensively. Now you only have one of those players remaining. So the Canadiens are kind of in a position where it's tough to project where they're going to be in the next few years, but I think everybody can kind of agree that this team is probably not good enough to reach bona fide contender status within the time span of Petry and Gallagher's contracts. So go out there, talk about guys, talk about trading players. Early term guys like Sherratt and Wideman here, probably on the block, but when it comes to Wideman specifically, I do think there probably could be some potential of getting maybe a 4th or a 5th round pick in return. I mean, players like these aren't too valuable in the trade market, but any value is value, right? And if you get that draft pick for a Wideman, at the end of the day, that's pretty much a free draft pick you got because Bergevin signed this guy for nothing last season. So talk to me in the comments, what do you think about Chris Wideman and the idea of him going out on a trade? If you're a fan of any other NHL team, let me know in the comments, would you want a player like a Chris Wideman? He's probably not going to be the biggest game changer in the world. He's probably not going to go out there and cost you a significant amount of value. So at the end of the day, it's not going to make you rich, it's not going to make you poor. But what this trade will do is serve as a benchmark for future business. You feel comfortable with me now? And then you'll know for sure that you finally found a broker on Wall Street that you could trust. Okay, no, screw that. I'm not doing that. If you know what that's from, you're a G. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you're familiar with that either way. Talk to me in the comments, let your thoughts, though, about Chris Wideman and the idea of trading this guy. Montreal Canadiens fans, what do you want in return for a Wideman? Other team fans, what do you think this guy should be worth, and would you want this player for your team? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Rosén, and bye.